Keanu Reeves stepped off the long international flight and stretched his shoulders, feeling the familiar relief of finally touching solid ground again. Istanbul Airport was alive with movement, passengers rushing past, rolling suitcases echoing against polished floors, flight announcements chiming overhead in Turkish and English. Keanu wore a simple black jacket and sunglasses, hoping to slip through unnoticed. He had come to Turkey for a quiet, unpublicized charity visit. No cameras, no press, just peace. But the atmosphere shifted the moment he approached the immigration counter. Two uniformed Turkish officers stepped forward almost in perfect sync, blocking his path. At first, Keanu thought it was just admiration or a routine check. He was used to the occasional fan. But their faces held no excitement, only tension. "Mr. Reeves," one officer said firmly, "you need to come with us." Keanu removed his sunglasses, confusion clouding his eyes. "Is there a problem?" The officers didn't answer. Instead, 4 more security agents surrounded him, forming a tight protective circle. The airport around him seemed to freeze. People stopped walking. Phones lifted into the air. Cameras clicked like rapid gunfire. Someone shouted, "Is that Keanu Reeves?" Another voice echoed, "Why are they arresting him?" Keanu remained calm, his trademark calm. But inside, a flicker of unease began to stir. He looked around, trying to read the situation. These officers weren't fans. They weren't even curious. They were following orders. He was escorted through a restricted doorway into a high-security zone of the airport. Metal doors clanged shut behind him, sealing him away from the public chaos outside. The room smelled of cold steel and disinfectant. A single fluorescent light buzzed overhead. An airport official with a stern face placed a passport on the table. "This is yours, correct?" Keanu nodded, unsure where this was going. The official tapped the passport. "Your identification has been flagged in our international system. You are under suspicion of involvement in global fraud activity." Keanu blinked, stunned. "That's impossible. I have done nothing illegal." But the official didn't budge. Another officer entered the room, pushing a suitcase toward the table. The suitcase looked unfamiliar, dark blue, scratched, worn. "This was found in your luggage record," the officer announced. The suitcase was opened with a dramatic, echoing click. Inside lay strange electronic devices, illegal communication gear, encrypted drives, and several items Keanu had never seen before in his life. The room fell silent. Keanu stared at the contents, shock washing through him. "That's not mine," he said quietly but firmly. The officers exchanged glances. Cameras in the room recorded everything. It was clear they believed the evidence. They believed the lie. Outside the room, the international media had already exploded. Headlines were already forming. The cold security room felt smaller as the officers stood rigidly around the metal table, staring at the suitcase like it held the truth of the universe. Keanu Reeves kept his eyes locked on the strange devices, objects, that looked like they belonged in a spy thriller, not in the luggage of an actor who came to Turkey for a charity visit. One officer lifted a slim, black encrypted drive with gloved hands. "This device," he said, "has been connected to international cybercrime operations. It was logged under your baggage code." Keanu leaned forward, jaw tightening. "I don't know what that is." "Someone must have swapped my bag." The officer shook his head. "Our systems show this was checked in under your name at Los Angeles Airport." Keanu frowned. "I checked in one bag. A black suitcase? Not this." He tapped the blue scratched luggage on the table. Even the zipper tag was foreign to him. Another officer switched on a tablet and slid it across to him. "Look here." Keanu stared at the screen. The airport security footage was grainy but clear enough. Someone, wearing a hoodie and a mask, rolling a suitcase identical to his toward the check-in counter. The figure's build was similar to Keanu's. Same height, same frame, same slow, calm walk. "They impersonated me," Keanu said, his voice low. The officer sighed as though he had heard excuses like this 1,000 times. "Mr. Reeves, we understand you are famous, but the evidence is overwhelming." Keanu felt frustration tightening inside his chest. The more he denied it, the more suspicious he seemed. Someone had planned this well, too well. Another officer entered the room holding a folder thick with printed documents. He dropped it onto the table with a heavy thud. Financial records, emails, communication logs, all tied to your identity. Keanu opened the folder. It was filled with fabricated emails, digital signatures, and transfers he never made. "These are fake," he said bluntly. The officer crossed his arms. "Prove it." Keanu exhaled slowly. This was a trap, perfectly built, perfectly timed. He looked around the room, observing the officers more closely now. Some seemed convinced, others seemed unsure. One young officer near the back avoided eye contact, almost as if he believed Keanu but couldn't speak. Keanu focused on him. "You know this isn't real, don't you?" he asked softly. The young officer's eyes flickered, but he stayed silent. Before Keanu could push further, the door burst open. A stern man in a formal suit stepped inside, flashing a badge so quickly it looked like a blur. "Stop questioning him," the man ordered. "This is now under joint jurisdiction." The Turkish officer stiffened. "Who are you?" The man flipped open his badge again, this time more clearly. "FBI United States." Keanu felt a chill crawl down his spine. The FBI agent approached him slowly. "Mr. Reeves, you are now wanted for questioning in the United States. You will be transferred immediately." The moment the FBI agent stepped into the Turkish security room, the entire atmosphere transformed. The officers, who moments earlier acted with full authority, now exchanged uncertain glances. International jurisdiction was no small matter, and the arrival of an American federal agent only intensified the drama surrounding Keanu Reeves. Outside those metal doors, however, the real storm had already begun. News had spread across Istanbul Airport like wildfire. A passenger had captured a short video, Keanu surrounded by officers, handcuffed, looking calm but cornered. Within minutes, it hit social media. Within 10 minutes, it hit global television. "Keanu arrested. Free Keanu. Istanbul Airport." The hashtags trended across Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube like a digital tsunami. On giant screens hanging above the airport lounges, news alerts flashed in bold red. "Breaking Hollywood star Keanu Reeves detained in Istanbul." FBI agents involved, international operation underway. Passengers crowded around the screens, whispering theories. He must have been set up. No way Keanu would do anything illegal. What if it's some government secret? I heard he hacked something huge. Everyone had a story, an opinion, a rumor. In Los Angeles, paparazzi stormed the front gate of Keanu's home. His neighbors were interviewed. Old videos surfaced. Conspiracy channels made thumbnails with glowing arrows and dramatic circles. Meanwhile, journalists worldwide scrambled for statements, from airports, from embassies, from anyone. But the truth was simple. No one understood what was happening. Inside Istanbul Airport's media wing, reporters from every major network gathered like hungry wolves. Microphones collided, camera lights flickered, and chaotic voices filled the air. When will the Turkish government release a statement? Is he being extradited? Is Keanu connected to the cyber attacks last week? The pressure became so intense that Turkish authorities held an impromptu press conference. A spokesman stepped up to the podium, but the moment he announced international criminal investigation, the room exploded in noise. Back inside the interrogation suite, even Keanu felt the shift. He could hear muffled shouting from outside, crowds gathering, media pushing, airport staff trying to maintain control. The FBI agent glanced at the door impatiently. "We need to move him. News has leaked." "It's too chaotic." Keanu exhaled. Of course it leaked. "I'm Keanu Reeves." But despite the pressure, he remained unnervingly calm. Years of fame had taught him how quickly public perception could spiral. Yet this time felt different, bigger, darker. Another officer entered, nervously adjusting his cap. "Sir, the media is blocking the main exits. Fans are gathering outside the terminals. Security recommends immediate relocation." The FBI agent nodded sharply. "We'll take him out through the restricted lower level." The restricted hallway beneath, Istanbul Airport, felt colder than the interrogation room. The walls were painted a dull gray. The air smelled of metal and fuel, and Keanu could hear the low hum of aircraft engines, vibrating through the concrete floor. This wasn't a public area. This was where governments handled quiet operations, hidden from the world. Two Turkish officers walked ahead, but the FBI agent stayed close behind Keanu. His steps controlled, almost rehearsed. Everything about him felt too precise. His haircut, his suit, his calm voice. Keanu had seen actors play federal agents, but this man wasn't acting. He was something else. As they turned a corner, Keanu noticed cameras mounted above each door. Red lights blinked. Every movement was recorded. "Where are you taking me?" Keanu finally asked. The FBI agent answered without looking at him. "To a private U.S. transport aircraft. Turkey has agreed to transfer you immediately." "Without a hearing?" Keanu questioned. The agent stopped walking. For a moment, the hallway fell silent. He turned to Keanu with a slight smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Mr. Reeves, when the FBI wants someone, hearings are optional." It was meant to be a joke, but the coldness behind it killed the humor. They continued walking until they reached a security checkpoint guarded by heavily armed Turkish soldiers. The lead officer hesitated when he saw Keanu. "Is this necessary?" he muttered in Turkish to the FBI agent. The agent replied in flawless Turkish, surprising Keanu. "Orders from Washington. High priority." The soldier stepped aside. Keanu couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Too many things were happening too fast. No one questioned the Americans. No one slowed the process. It was as if the path had been cleared days in advance. They pushed through a heavy steel door into a dimly lit underground hangar. A sleek U.S. government jet waited on the runway, engines low, lights glowing. Back ramp open, almost like it expected him. Keanu stopped walking. "This doesn't feel like standard procedure," he said quietly. The FBI agent's jaw tightened. "You're not in a position to ask questions." Keanu looked him straight in the eyes. "Then why am I being treated like a political target instead of a suspect?" That struck a nerve. The agent stepped closer until they were inches apart. "You were found connected to an international network planning cyber attacks on U.S. infrastructure," he whispered. "You think this is about you being a celebrity?" Keanu didn't blink. "I think someone wants me out of the way." The agent didn't respond, but his silence said everything. A second agent appeared at the top of the ramp. "Let's go! We need to leave before the press breaches the perimeter." Turkish guards closed in. The FBI agent grabbed Keanu's arm, not roughly, but firmly enough to show there was no escape. As Keanu walked toward the waiting aircraft, the truth settled heavily in his chest. The metallic ramp of the U.S. government jet vibrated under Keanu's feet as he stepped inside, flanked tightly by two FBI agents. The interior of the aircraft was nothing like a commercial plane. It looked more like a flying interrogation chamber. The walls were lined with reinforced panels, the windows were sealed, and the seats were arranged facing each other like a military transport. Keanu paused at the entrance. "You're moving fast," he said, scanning the room. "Too fast." The lead agent gave a curt nod to the pilots. "Take off as soon as the doors close." No explanation, no paperwork, no conversation. A Turkish officer approached the ramp but stopped at the threshold, looking conflicted. He lowered his voice and whispered to Keanu, "I hope justice finds you." "Mr. Reeves, something here feels wrong." Before Keanu could respond, the FBI agent shoved the button beside the ramp, and the steel door rose with a heavy, echoing grind, sealing out the last glimpse of Istanbul. Keanu sat down slowly, his wrists still cuffed. The click of the locks echoed unnaturally loud in the quiet cabin. The engines roared. The vibration intensified. Within moments, the aircraft surged forward, lifting off the runway and vanishing into the night sky. Keanu looked out at the distant lights of Istanbul shrinking below. He had come to Turkey to help people, schools, charity programs, orphanages. Yet now he was leaving as an accused criminal, paraded through international systems like a dangerous threat. Across from him, one agent flipped open a laptop. His fingers typed rapidly, lines of encrypted codes flashing across the screen. The other agent monitored a tablet with Keanu's digital records, photos, files, documents, all manipulated to paint a picture that wasn't real. Keanu leaned forward slightly. "Why frame me?" he asked calmly. "What do I know that's so dangerous?" The agent didn't look up. "Your name is Leverage." Keanu frowned. "Leverage for what?" The agent closed the laptop abruptly, as if he had already said too much. Keanu leaned back, exhaling slowly. Someone had gone to great lengths to create a scenario that matched perfectly. Fake evidence, synced airport footage, Digital records rewritten. Intercontinental cooperation. He wasn't facing an ordinary enemy. He was facing a system. As the aircraft cut across the dark sky, Keanu felt an unexpected tremor, not fear but clarity. Whoever orchestrated this didn't just want him arrested. They wanted him transferred, transported, controlled. Suddenly, turbulence rattled the cabin. The agents exchanged glances. This wasn't normal turbulence. It felt deliberate. Then the cabin lights flickered. Keanu raised his head. What was that? The agent gripped his armrest. Stay calm. But Keanu sensed it instantly. Something was wrong. More than wrong. A faint, rhythmic beeping echoed from the cockpit. Alarm tones. Urgent voices. The plane jerked left sharply, nearly throwing one agent to the floor. Keanu Reeves sat in the dim light of his solitary cell, the small slip of paper clutched tightly in his hand. The words burned into his mind. You were framed because you found out something you weren't supposed to. His pulse quickened. Not from fear, but from clarity. The pieces were finally starting to connect. Whoever orchestrated his arrest, the sabotage mid-flight. And the planted evidence wasn't a random criminal. This was a calculated high-level operation. The facility around him remained silent, save for the distant echo of boots on concrete and the occasional metallic clang of doors. He studied the shadows, thinking strategically. Whoever had framed him clearly had influence, enough to manipulate international law enforcement, hack a government aircraft, and fabricate digital trails so convincingly that even FBI agents were convinced. This wasn't just a setup. It was a declaration, you are in our control. A faint click sounded from the corner of the cell. Keanu's head snapped in that direction, his reflexes instantly alert. Nothing, just a shadow. He exhaled slowly, suppressing tension, and sat back. He had survived impossible odds before, both on screen and off. Now the stakes were real, but the principle remained the same. Survive first. Understand second, act third. Minutes or hours passed. Then a second message arrived. This time it wasn't paper. It was electronic. His small, confiscated phone had been smuggled back in through unknown means, flashing a single encrypted message. Meet me, midnight, cell 14B, trust no one. A friend. Keanu's mind raced. Who could this be? A sympathetic guard? An insider within the FBI? Someone else entirely? Regardless, he knew one thing. This was his only chance to uncover the truth. Whoever framed him had underestimated his persistence, his intellect, and his network of allies. The hours crawled by until midnight. Keanu lay in wait, listening to the faint hum of fluorescent lights and the distant whispers of inmates. The door to 14B opened just slightly, a shadow slipping in. The figure was cloaked, hood drawn, and face obscured. You're alive, the figure whispered. They wanted to disappear you quietly. Keanu nodded, his calm mask in place. Who's behind this? The figure leaned closer, voice low and urgent. Someone in power. Someone with access to both governments and private corporations. They've framed you because you discovered their operation. If they succeed, you'll be erased from every record, every network, every system. They want you dead and forgotten. Keanu's eyes hardened. Then I'll stop them. Whatever it takes, the figure handed him a small data drive. Everything you need is here. Names, transactions, communications. But be careful. Every step is watched. Every ally could be an enemy. Trust only yourself. Keanu gripped the drive tightly, feeling the weight of the mission settle over him. The challenge ahead was immense. But for the first time since Istanbul, for nearly an hour, the aircraft fought against the unseen digital force controlling its path. The pilots struggled, the agents panicked, and Keanu, despite being the one in handcuffs, remained the only person thinking clearly. Finally, as the plane neared U.S. airspace, something shifted. The alarm stopped. The controls unlocked. The cockpit door burst open again. We've regained manual control, the pilot shouted. Whoever hacked us just disconnected, as if they had reached exactly the point they wanted. The jet descended through heavy clouds toward New York, streaks of rain blurring the windows. Keanu leaned closer to the small emergency window beside him. The dark outline of Manhattan emerged through the storm, bright, alive, unaware that its newest arrival was being delivered under the shadow of a global conspiracy. The radio crackled back to life. Federal Transport 7A. Be advised, media presence has gathered at JFK. Do not approach public terminals. Repeat, divert to private hangar. The lead agent muttered a curse. They already know we're coming. Keanu exhaled slowly. Of course they do. As the plane lowered, the landing gear thumped beneath them. The jet touched the runway with a jolt and rolled toward a remote, restricted section of the airport, far from crowds, far from cameras. But even from the small window, Keanu could see flashing lights in the distance. Dozens of police cars, media vans, helicopters hovering like vultures. The door opened with a hydraulic hiss. Cold New York air blasted inside. 2 U.S. Marshals waited at the base of the ramp. Their expressions were grim, as if they were expecting a violent criminal, not a confused actor framed for something ruthless. Keanu Reeves, you are officially under U.S. federal custody, one marshal announced. The FBI agent who had escorted him from Turkey stepped aside, almost eagerly, too eagerly. Keanu was handed over like a package. The marshals placed new cuffs on, him tighter ones, and guided him toward a waiting black SUV. Rain fell harder now, making the tarmac shine like polished glass. Keanu felt the weight of the moment, not fear, but the realization that he had just stepped into a deeper layer of the trap. As they approached the vehicles, shouting echoed from beyond the barriers. Fans, reporters, protesters. Keanu, we love you! Free him! What did he do? Is Hollywood hiding something? Some held signs. Others pushed against the barricades. Police struggled to hold them back. A helicopter spotlight swept across the scene, illuminating Keanu's face for a split second. Cameras captured everything. The marshals hurried him into the SUV. The door slammed shut, muting the chaos outside. Inside, the vehicle felt disturbingly silent. Rain hammered the roof. The lead marshal typed something into a secure tablet. Keanu caught a glimpse of the document title. Operation Ghost Frame Subject Retrieval Report. Ghost Frame. The black SUVs raced through the rain-slicked streets of New York, weaving between highway lights and the occasional startled taxi. Inside the lead vehicle, Keanu Reeves sat rigidly, his hands cuffed in front of him. He had learned to read the expressions of those around him. The marshals were professional, competent, but tense. Their eyes flicked constantly to their rearview mirrors, checking for tails or worse, unexpected interference. Where are we going? Keanu asked calmly, breaking the tense silence. One of the marshals glanced at him through the tinted rear window. Maximum security federal facility. You'll be processed there for questioning. Keanu raised an eyebrow. Processed? For what exactly? I've already been framed, interrogated, and hijacked mid-flight. What more do you need? The marshal didn't answer. Outside, New York's skyline was a blur of lights against the dark storm clouds. Rain streaked the windows, giving everything an almost cinematic sheen. Keanu's mind raced. He replayed the events from Istanbul, the fake suitcase, the fabricated digital records, the mid-air sabotage. Whoever orchestrated this had anticipated every move. And now even in the U.S., the trap seemed far from over. The convoy turned onto a heavily guarded, nondescript road leading away from the city. The SUVs moved past concrete barriers, armed checkpoints, and rows of uniformed guards holding automatic rifles. Security cameras tracked every movement. Keanu realized the facility they were approaching was no ordinary jail. It was a fortress. Inside the SUV, the air was thick with tension. Keanu's cuffs clicked softly as he shifted in his seat. He studied the marshals closely, searching for any hint of sympathy, any indication of someone willing to help him. He found none, not yet. The lead marshal spoke again. Once inside, you'll be kept in isolation until the investigation is complete. Access to the outside world will be limited. Keanu's lips pressed together. Isolation wasn't new to him, but what unnerved him wasn't the solitude. It was the realization that someone with immense power had orchestrated this entire scenario with surgical precision. They had framed him internationally, sabotaged a government aircraft, and now ensured he would be trapped in a high-security facility with limited contact. As the convoy approached the gates, searchlights cut through the rain, casting long shadows across the road. Guards with night vision, goggles scanned the area as the SUVs passed slowly through the reinforced entry. Every door, every camera, every checkpoint was accounted for. Every move meticulously calculated. Keanu leaned back in his seat, breathing steadily. His calm exterior masked a storm of determination. He knew that surviving the journey to the facility was only the first challenge. Inside, he would face a system designed to convince the world of his guilt, and yet, amidst the tension, Keanu felt something familiar stirring, a quiet resolve. The heavy steel doors slammed shut behind Keanu Reeves, echoing through the cavernous corridor of the maximum security facility. The sound reverberated like a warning. Once inside, there was no turning back. The dim, fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows along the concrete walls, highlighting the sterile coldness of the prison. Every step Keanu took echoed, swallowed almost immediately by the vast emptiness of the hall. Two guards flanked him, their expressions unreadable. The clinking of the handcuffs seemed louder than ever, a cruel percussion accompanying his reluctant march. Keanu's mind raced, analyzing every detail, the placement of cameras, the locked doors, the security measures. He was inside a place designed to break people, to erase their existence in the eyes of the world. As they reached a central processing area, other inmates glanced at him with curiosity and suspicion. Some recognized him instantly. Whispers rippled through the corridors. "Is that Keanu Reeves? Hollywood star in jail? No way, man, he's gonna be trouble here." Keanu kept his head high, projecting calm, though he felt a twinge of unease. Fame meant nothing in a place like this. Notoriety could even make him a target. The processing officer guided him to a small cubicle. The fluorescent lights flickered above, making the sterile room seem almost unreal. They took his fingerprints, photographs and DNA samples, each click of the camera and beep of the scanner embedding the reality of his incarceration into the system. The walls seemed to close in with every passing moment. Once processed, Keanu was escorted to a solitary cell. The door slid shut with a deafening clang. Inside, the air was stale, and the shadows of the bars stretched long across the concrete floor. A single, narrow window offered a glimpse of the outside world, a tiny sliver of freedom he couldn't reach. He sat on the hard bench, hands still cuffed, the cold metal digging into his wrists. His mind replayed everything. The Istanbul Airport. The planted evidence, the mid-air sabotage, the manipulated digital files. Someone had meticulously designed this nightmare. Every step, every decision, every move had been orchestrated to make him appear guilty, isolated, and powerless. From the hallway, guards' boots echoed as they patrolled. Inmates whispered outside, their voices carrying rumors and half-truths about his arrest. Some expressed awe, others malice. Keanu knew he had to stay vigilant. Trust was a luxury he didn't have. He lay back against the wall, staring at the ceiling. In the dim light, the shadows seemed to form patterns, like a message or a warning. The thought struck him. He wasn't here just because of a mistake or a setup. He was here because someone powerful wanted him trapped, controlled, and silenced. Minutes turned into hours. Keanu remained alert, yet calm. He drew on the resilience that had guided him through life's toughest challenges. Keanu Reeves sat in the dim light of his solitary cell, the small slip of paper clutched tightly in his hand. The words burned into his mind. "You were framed because you found out something you weren't supposed to." His pulse quickened, not from fear, but from clarity. The pieces were finally starting to connect. Whoever orchestrated his arrest, the sabotage mid-flight, and the planted evidence wasn't a random criminal. This was a calculated high-level operation. The facility around him remained silent, save for the distant echo of boots on concrete and the occasional metallic clang of doors. He studied the shadows, thinking strategically. Whoever had framed him clearly had influence, enough to manipulate international law enforcement, hack a government aircraft, and fabricate digital trails so convincingly that even FBI agents were convinced. This wasn't just a setup. It was a declaration, "You are in our control." A faint click sounded from the corner of the cell. Keanu's head snapped in that direction, his reflexes instantly alert. Nothing, just a shadow. He exhaled slowly, suppressing tension, and sat back. He had survived impossible odds before, both on screen and off. Now the stakes were real, but the principle remained the same. Survive first. Understand second, act third. Minutes or hours passed. Then a second message arrived. This time it wasn't paper. It was electronic. His small, confiscated phone had been smuggled back in through unknown means, flashing a single encrypted message. Meet me, midnight, cell 14B, trust no one. A friend. Keanu's mind raced. Who could this be? A sympathetic guard? An insider within the FBI? Someone else entirely? Regardless, he knew one thing. This was his only chance to uncover the truth. Whoever framed him had underestimated his persistence, his intellect, and his network of allies. The hours crawled by until midnight. Keanu lay in wait, listening to the faint hum of fluorescent lights and the distant whispers of inmates. The door to 14B opened just slightly, a shadow slipping in. The figure was cloaked, hood drawn, and face obscured. "You're alive," the figure whispered. "They wanted to disappear you quietly." Keanu nodded, his calm mask in place. Who's behind this?" The figure leaned closer, voice low and urgent. "Someone in power. Someone with access to both governments and private corporations. They've framed you because you discovered their operation. If they succeed, you'll be erased from every record, every network, every system. They want you dead and forgotten." Keanu's eyes hardened. "Then I'll stop them." "Whatever it takes." The figure handed him a small data drive. "Everything you need is here. Names, transactions, communications. But be careful. Every step is watched. Every ally could be an enemy. Trust only yourself." Keanu gripped the drive tightly, feeling the weight of the mission settle over him.